To understand why these homes are solving today's housing problems, we have to look back at the historical genius of their design. The Quonset Hut was born out of absolute military panic in 1941. The United States Navy needed a structure that could be shipped anywhere in the world, unrolled on a beach, and completely assembled by a small crew of unskilled laborers in a matter of hours, without any specialized tools. They engineered a self-supporting arch made of corrugated galvanized steel. The design took its name from Quonset Point, Rhode Island, the Naval Air Station where they were first manufactured. A Quonset hut, the arch, is one of the strongest geometric forms known to human engineering. Because the arch distributes its weight evenly along its entire curve, directly down to the foundation, it requires zero internal support pillars, zero trusses, and zero load-bearing interior walls. When you buy a Quonset hut, you are essentially purchasing a massive open-concept metal shell, a giant blank canvas that you can customize however you want. In the modern market, engineering has evolved significantly. When you shop for a Quonset kit today, you aren't stuck with just one shape, you have options. The classic Q model is the traditional pure semicircle, offering the maximum aerodynamic strength but requiring careful interior planning due to the aggressively sloping sidewalls. Then there is the highly popular S model, which features straight vertical sidewalls that curve into an arched roof overhead. This model is an absolute favorite for residential homes because it allows you to push standard furniture, kitchen cabinets, and appliances right up against the outer walls without losing an inch of floor space. Finally, there is the P model, featuring a pitched roofline with vertical sides, giving it a more traditional house-like silhouette while retaining the ease of arch construction. Let's talk about the absolute #1 driver of the Quonset hut trend, the jaw-dropping affordability. In a world where a standard home addition can easily cross 6 figures, the price tag of a steel arch kit looks like a typo. For a basic steel arch shell, you are looking at an average cost of $15 to $35 per square foot. Read that again, $15 to $35. That means you can purchase the entire structural shell of a 1,200 square foot home for around $20,000 to $40,000. How is this financially possible? It comes down to manufacturing and material efficiency. Traditional houses require a massive supply chain, thousands of board feet of lumber, thousands of nails, shingles, siding materials, drywalls, vapor barriers, and a highly specialized crew of carpenters, roofers, and framers. A Quonset hut bypasses almost all of this. The shell is manufactured in a factory, stamped out of high-grade commercial steel, and shipped directly to your property, flat-packed on a couple of wooden pallets. But we must look at the factual reality of building a home. The kit price is not the total price. This is where many over-enthusiastic internet articles gloss over the details, but we're going to give it to you straight. To turn that steel shell into a livable luxury home, you still need to pour a concrete foundation, clear your land, install a heavy-duty insulation system, run your plumbing, electricity, and finish the interior framing. When you calculate all those factors on a realistic basis, a fully finished, professionally completed modern Quonset hut home typically costs between $100 to $150 per square foot. Compare that to traditional residential custom construction, which routinely crosses $250 to $400 per square foot today, and you quickly realize why people are losing their minds over this trend. It cuts the cost of building a custom home almost clean in half. Beyond the raw cost of materials, there is a second massive financial saver baked into the Quonset hut DNA, the total elimination of professional framing labor. In traditional construction, hiring a crew to frame your walls and build your roof structure eats up a massive percentage of your total budget. But because the Quonset hut was originally engineered for quickly deployed military logistics, it is designed to be assembled by completely regular people. The entire assembly process operates on a massive nut and bolt system. When the kit arrives on your site, every single steel panel is pre-cut, pre-punched, and mathematically identical. You don't need a compound miter saw, you don't need a heavy framing nailer, you don't even need advanced construction experience. The basic process involves laying a few panels on the ground, alignment of the pre-drilled holes, running a line of heavy-duty bolts through them, and tightening them down with an impact wrench to form a single structural arch segment. Once an arch is assembled on the ground, you and a small group of friends or a simple rented lift raise the arch vertically and bolt it securely into a metal industrial track embedded in your concrete foundation. Then you move on to the next arch, overlapping the panels to create a completely waterproof, seamless interlocking seal. A dedicated team of 3 or 4 people can realistically erect the entire structural shell of a medium-sized home in a single long weekend. By converting complex structural carpentry into a giant adult-sized erector set, the Quonset hut empowers owner-builders to save tens of thousands of dollars in commercial labor fees. Let's move away from the money for a moment and talk about structural survival. Because we're living in an era where climate change is making weather events increasingly hostile. Wildfires are wiping out entire neighborhoods in the West, tornadoes are tearing through the Midwest, and hurricanes are battering coastal communities with unprecedented intensity. Our traditional wood-framed homes are failing to stand up to these cataclysms. The Quonset hut, however, is a literal fortress. Think about the physics of a traditional house. It features flat, vertical walls and a pitched roof with wide, overhanging eaves. When a hurricane-force wind or a tornado hits that structure, those eaves act exactly like a giant umbrella caught in a gust. The wind gets trapped underneath them, creating an immense upward force known as aerodynamic uplift that can rip the entire roof clean off the framing. A Quonset hut has absolutely 0 eaves, 0 flat faces, and 0 corners for the wind to catch. The wind simply glides cleanly over the aerodynamic curve of the arch, exerting 0 destructive leverage on the building. Furthermore, because the entire structure is made of heavy-gauge, commercial-grade galvanized steel, it possesses exceptional fire resistance. If a wildfire sweeps through your property, there are no wooden shingles to catch a spark and no vinyl siding to melt into toxic sludge. If your end walls are designed with non-combustible materials like stone, brick, or steel-framed glass, the building is practically fireproof. Additionally, steel has an incredible property known as tensile ductility, meaning it can bend and flex under stress without breaking. In major seismic zones, while rigid brick or concrete block homes crack and collapse due to ground movement, a bolted steel arch can flex with the earth, absorb the seismic waves, and remain completely structurally sound. It is an architecture designed not just for lifestyle, but for absolute survival.
Now let's address the fun part, the interior design. This is where the modern trend departs completely from historical utility. Because the steel arch requires absolutely no internal load-bearing support walls, when you step inside an unfinished Quonset hut, you are looking at a monumental, column-free cathedral of space. You have total architectural autonomy. You can leave the space completely open concept from front to back, or you can carve it up however your imagination desires. The modern aesthetic trend that has taken social media by storm is a beautiful style known as warm industrial chic. Designers lean into the unique geometry of the building rather than trying to hide it. They leave the corrugated steel ceiling entirely exposed on the inside, painting it a brilliant, clean white or a moody, sophisticated matte charcoal. They pour a radiant, heated, polished concrete floor, and then they soften those hard industrial surfaces with rich organic textures like massive fluted walnut accent walls, warm cedar wood planks on the flat end walls, and plush, low-profile minimalist furniture. The flat end walls are where your home establishes its architectural soul. Because the steel arches handle all the structural weight, your two flat end walls can be made out of whatever you want. The current high-end trend is to make the entire front facade a custom-engineered glass curtain wall. Imagine living in a home where your entire front wall is an uninterrupted pane of glass that follows the perfect mathematical curve of the arch. It floods the entire length of the tunnel with natural sunlight, erases the line between your living room and the nature outside, and creates a spatial experience that feels incredibly high-end. A home that looks like a multi-million-dollar custom estate, but was built on a modest budget.